So yeah, this was quite an interesting chapter. And apparently chapter 11 is when it gets really dicey. So I guess we have to wait till next week. But
I read into it, and it gets a little complicated.
Well, and it's very I like how I listened to two different men who talked about this particular chapter, and they used a lot of things kind of really stuck out at me. The angelic forces, how they quoted Exodus, Samuel, Luke, all these times where the Bible is telling us about the coming, or about how did they say it? So I don't know. I was hoping we could read some of that today to just kind of get more into it. But yeah, there was this whole the CAD zone. They called it the CAD zone. You ever heard of that? The longest time period in the Bible, from 457 BC to 1844 AD.
Oh, me. Oh, no, I haven't heard of that one. That's a new one on me.
And the Mara, the vision of the mighty man, which is Jesus. I guess, yeah, the Chazon is the vision of the 2300 evenings and mornings, which begins, I guess it's chapter 10 sets the stage for that, for chapter 11, which begins on Daniel 11:1, which I think we're supposed to have a little bit of it today.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, again, a lot to cover, but just I had to read other things because I kind of got lost in it, going, okay, what are you saying? Like, what is his vision? So it got a little bit intimidating for me, but that's okay. That's how we learn, right? So
there's a lot of interpretations, I mean, there's more, there's so many interpretations, just go with the one you want, feel good about, and you're all right. I mean, because
the one that spoke to me the most. I mean, the first one I was going, huh? Okay. And then another one says we're going to go verse by verse. I said, okay, I can do verse by verse. And what both of them agreed on was, we have to remember that Daniel was 84 at the time, or in his mid to late 80s. In this whole fasting for 3 weeks, I just thought of some of our friends in church, and I'm like, I can't imagine some of our friends who are in that age range not eating or drinking for 80 of anything significant for 3 weeks. That's just crazy. But okay, but they talk about
my commentary said that he was fasting during the Passover. So he may not have been a complete fast, but maybe he was cutting back on
just cutting back is what mine said too. Yeah.
Okay. And it did talk about how they didn't have an altar at the time. So Daniel fasted for 3 weeks. He was worshiping God via the fast because there is no temple, and the only way to worship is with the temple. So that was his way of honoring, of wanting to pray to God to get more of the vision, or just to be in relationship with him. So, and to hear his word. So, okay. So yeah, there's a whole lot. So I was intimidated and fascinated. So here we go. Here we go. Okay. Who would like to start?
I'll start off. That's
Perfect.
my lot here as of late. Okay. How does Daniel describe his spiritual condition? See Daniel 10:1-3. Below, what caused this? Note Ezra 4, 4-5:24. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, something was revealed to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar. This thing was true, and it concerned a great warfare. He understood this thing. Indeed, he had understanding of the vision. At the time, I, Daniel, had been mourning for 3 full weeks. I ate no choice food. I tasted neither meat nor wine, and I did not anoint myself with lotion until the 3 full weeks were completed. And then the reading is, then let's see. Oh, then we're going to start on Ezra. Okay.
Ezra, yeah.
Round about him set out to discourage the people of Judah and make them afraid to go on building. They hired counselors to work against them and frustrate their plans during the entire reign of Cyrus, king of Persia, and down to the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Thus the work of the house of Jerusalem came to a standstill until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. And then his comments are, at the outset of this chapter, verses 2-3, Daniel informs us that he was mourning for 3 full weeks. This took place during the year of Cyrus, king of Persia, verse 1. In the first year of his reign, Cyrus released the Jews from captivity and gave orders for the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem, Ezra 1:1-3. But when the Jews returned to Jerusalem and began the task of rebuilding the temple, they ran into opposition, Ezra 4:1-5 and 24. Indeed, these adversaries succeeded in bringing the work to a halt until the second year of Darius, a period of approximately 15 years, from 535 to 520 BC, Ezra 4:24. This is why Daniel was in mourning, because he heard that the construction of the temple had been brought to a halt. Okay.
Oh,
So I read up on that a little bit, and I read in my commentary, evidently there were people, they weren't sure who these outsiders were that had tried to discourage the work of Judah. They said they could have been people that had come from, I think, from Syria, or they could have been people they could have been Jews that were dissatisfied with, that may have been satisfied with the former Babylonian rule and were not happy with the new
a
rule.
change.
Yeah, the change, exactly. So I got the feeling, and I can see where that would be a point for him to why he would be in mourning or in fasting for that time. But it does say here that it might have been a partial fast, because he said he had no, what is it?
Yeah, it just,
At the time I ate no choice food. I tasted neither meat nor wine, and I did not anoint myself with lotion at the time. So he may have been eating unleavened bread for the whole period. No.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, it does make a good point. He's in mourning, and we get the feeling that he's in mourning because of this, because the temple is not,
Yeah. And
the temple is not coming along as it should. As promised.
right. Right. And again, there's what I understood from this chapter was Jerusalem has to be built in order, Jerusalem has to be around in order for Jesus to come back. And so he's getting these visions. And it really made me think of a lot of things about, in government and all these other things about, when you've got these adversaries who are working on not wanting Jesus to come back, whether you call that the devil, the Antichrist, or whatever that is, it's almost like, and I hear this, how, and again, I have nothing against Palestine, but I do get concerned that Jerusalem gets beat up all the time. I mean, there's a reason that, isn't it the Jewish people that have been picked on the most in our history of the time that we've been around? As far as I know, and not to dismay or to dismiss any other sects of people that have been oppressed. But for this piece, it just made me realize, who wants Jerusalem destroyed, who wants them wiped off the face of the earth, and for what purpose of that? If I'm reading here, God says that it has to be around for Jesus to come back. And so that's where I took his mourning as, that, I don't know if it was fear or if it was sadness because it was happening, but it just seemed like it was a much bigger picture, because this man has been given, has been faithful to God, and God has chosen him to tell us this vision for the ages to come. And that's us. So that's kind of where I went. I thought, it just made me understand things a lot better.
Sure.
And to pay attention to, they lurk everywhere. So I'm gonna be more mindful of that. But that's how I took it. In the
But
beginning.
I think that's an important point, because all the things that we're dealing with here, everything is focused around Jerusalem.
Yep.
Everything. Heavenly city.
yeah,
And the release of Judah, and the conquering of Judah, the going into exile and, taking the people of Judah, which is Jerusalem, taking them into exile and so forth. So everything focuses on Jerusalem. And obviously it was an important thing in Jesus' day because all the Gospels say, Jesus, turned his face toward Jerusalem. So yes, his early ministry, but so forth, but he was bound and determined to go to Jerusalem. So it's it's certainly a central theme there.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
we had a similar session today. May not be Jerusalem. Who knows?
Right. But and again, it's just interesting. And then it makes more sense as to, again, the people who want them. An evil man, Hitler, tried to wipe them off the face of the earth, and
Sure.
he did not succeed. And it makes sense why even in the Jewish community, they work so hard to marry within their religion to strengthen that. I was like, why why do Jewish people get upset when they marry whatever? And they go, because 6 million of us died, in 1945 here,
And
And
it's
I'm
been
like, oh,
going
World
on
War II.
forever, forever and ever
Forever.
and ever.
Forever.
God.
And it's going to continue forever. So it just makes everything more sense. It all, like, the dots are connecting. When I was reading and then listening, and I'm going, oh wow, okay. And we have people now in our own government who are anti-Jerusalem, so anti-Jewish, and it does get me a little bit, but God will prevail. I have to remember God will prevail.
Absolutely, you have to remember that. Absolutely.
I have to remember that. So anyway, but that's all. I'm not trying to be conspiracy theorist or anything. That's where I was at. So just learning. Okay, who would like to do number 2?
All right, I'll do number 2. When
Okay.
Daniel seeks an answer as to why the work of rebuilding the temple has been halted, what does he learn? See Daniel 10:1-13. In the year of Cyrus, king of Persia, something was revealed to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar. This thing was true, and it concerned a great warfare. He understood this thing. Indeed, he had understanding of the vision. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia stood against me for 21 days. According to verse 1, what was revealed to Daniel was a great warfare. From verse 13a, Christ was opposed to the prince of the kingdom of Persia for 21 days. Note, the prince of the kingdom of Persia is none other than the devil himself in his capacity as the prince of this world. And he exerts an evil control and influence over the kingdoms of this world. Just as the devil has for 21 days hindered the Lord's response to Daniel's prayers, so likewise, Daniel must understand that it is the devil who is presently hindering the rebuilding of the temple. The devil, operating in the Persian court, has made Cyprus favorably disposed to Israel's adversaries, thus causing the work to be effectively hindered for the present time. Thus, we learn that within the scope of God's absolute sovereignty, the devil is permitted to effectively, though only temporarily, oppose the Lord and his purposes. Yeah.
That's a tough one for me. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hate to be the lone dissenter here, kind of like the Supreme Court,
No, I appreciate that. Go ahead.
But
Go.
I get it. I get it here. And the way my commentary said is that the Prince of Persia, Michael, the Prince of Persia is an angel. And Michael is an angel.
Mhm.
And there's also an angel that represents Greece. There's an angel that represents Rome, but there's a constant warring of angelic spiritual warfare going on, which mirrors the warfare on the ground,
on the nations,
on the earth.
Yeah.
So now I don't know what what's the symbol of Michael. Does he have a sword? You know, I mean, when you see you're the, come on, you guys, you're in the,
Michael the Archangel?
huh?
Michael the
the
Archangel.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know I went to a church with Saint Michael, and yeah, he had a sword.
Oh, I mean, there was a church where Steve Jones used to go to in Corona del Mar, Saint Michael and All Angels.
Mhm.
And so that's what I gained out of the thing. Now he kind of, Richmond kind of winds around it. Now he may call the kingdom of Persia evil, you know, I mean, and the devil, and you know, I can understand that, but Michael is warring against the devil, but he's warring against the angel that represents Persia.
Mhm.
So they're saying there's this angelic host that's doing war. And the thing is, I think don't you see some of that in Revelations? I mean, that Revelations, I'm not a huge fan of it, but you know, they talk about these, and you know, these wars that go on, you know, in the heavenly realms. So I think that's what they're talking about. And
Right.
Michael, and must be Michael's assistant, the man that, you know, that's there, that's revealing all this to him. And he's saying, "Oh, I got to go back and help Michael." You know,
Right, yeah.
So are
'cause
you
Michael
saying,
is-
Dale,
the
that there's
opponent
a
of Satan.
spiritual warfare going on that reflects what's going on with
Yes.
between the nations or on Earth?
Yeah, that's what my commentary said.
Uh-huh,
Mhm.
uh-huh.
He said.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does to me. I thought that was pretty good. And it's something I had never really thought about, you know. But I can see that, and you know, it might hold true this day. There might be, you know, we may have, you know, who knows? I mean, spiritual angels, you know, at war, you know, evil versus good, you know,
Yeah.
that's entirely possible, you know. Now, from what I read, though, that Michael represented Judah, Jerusalem.
Mhm,
He was the representative of Judah and Jerusalem.
mhm.
He represented them in this war. You know, whereas what is it? The kingdom
Prince of Pete, no, Prince,
is it Prince of Persia?
The Prince
Prince of the
of the
Kingdom.
Kingdom of Persia is
Yeah.
none other than the devil
That was
himself.
the angel that Michael was fighting.
Mhm.
And
Wherefore he understood this thing, indeed he ended his understanding of it.
you know, I think Richard's trying to say the same thing, but he, you know, he gives, you know, he's the Prince of the King of Persia is none other than the devil himself in his capacity over the kingdoms of the world.
Right.
That might be, according to Mike.
I can't understand Richmond. I can understand what you're saying.
I know. I mean, listening to the two men that I listened to today on YouTube, it made a lot of sense. And then when I read this, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
He
but
gets
I mean,
stuck again.
but he does go. I mean, in number 3, obviously, kind of makes more sense. And I'll read that. But yeah,
Yeah, read that.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What word of assurance does the Lord give Daniel? See Daniel 10:13. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. So I remained there with the kings of Persia. At Daniel 10:13b. The Lord is victorious over the devil and his forces of evil. The Lord has ensured that his will shall prevail among the kings of Persia. The Lord declares, I remain there with the kings of Persia, or a better rendering, I am left there with the kings of Persia. This to say, the Lord has dispatched of the devil's dominating influence. Thus the Lord's purpose shall be accomplished. Note in Nehemiah 2:2-8, a passage relating Nehemiah's request to return to Jerusalem again to supervise the construction of the wall of the city, and King Artaxerxes, there you go, favorable response. Note the name and the role of Michael signify two things. First, by means of his angelic being, God reveals his unmatchable power. Thank you, God. The name Michael means who is like God. Second, the reference to Michael is intended to indicate how the entire host of the heavenly beings are engaged in this awesome spiritual conflict. No, Revelation 12:7.
There you go, Dale.
Yeah, yeah, there. Yeah, I think he finally gets to it. And again, how the entire host of the heavenly beings are engaged in this awesome spiritual conflict. That's basically what my commentary was saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, God will prevail at all
God
costs.
will prevail.
And how do we, and are we ready? Make sure we're ready. So,
Sure.
oh, I just think about Daniel having all these visions and having God speak to him and being a frail man or a strong man, but still just a frail man. And
Sure.
at 80, in his 80s, like this poor guy,
Yeah.
but again, we are useful to the end.
Sure.
We're useful to the end. So he wasn't sitting on a porch, drinking chai. He was doing his thing. That's what they do over there. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Be useful. That's what Marion
yes,
tells me, be useful. Yeah.
yes. Did not go back maybe because it was before. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I have any. Okay. Okay, so I mean, we talked about that. So yeah, I mean, God is, I heard today that the devil is not the opposite of God, because that would mean that they were equal, and they are not. And
Right.
obviously the devil was an angel at one time and got kicked out. So now he's always going to be under, and God is always going to be over, kind of a thing. So, but the devil has his way of getting in. And obviously God is like, you're no match for me. So you're just no match for me. However, he's got to have people to make sure that Jerusalem stands, and so that's the part where I'm trying to have a better understanding of it.
Sure.
And in today's world, it does have me a little nervous, but it makes me understand that, my husband tells me when we were learning like how to fight over in Afghanistan, and there were the Israeli soldiers that I'm not sure how I forgot all the details, but he said they know how to fight better than anybody because they've been fighting forever. So
Sure.
when they learn different tactics, the Israelis would give them, guidance in that, and especially going over there, what to understand. So, and yeah, because they've been doing it since Jesus was around. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really crazy. It's really crazy. So, okay. So how about you do number 4 there, sir?
Want me to go ahead and do number 4?
Sure, unless you have something you want to say about number 3.
I want to make a comment though before
Yes, please.
Okay. It just popped into my mind is that, we speak of the devil. Okay. But, I think in biblical terms, there are several names for the devil. And I was just thinking about in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, deliver us from evil, from evil. But if you look at the original prayer, it says, deliver us from the evil one.
Oh my goodness.
If you look at the Lord's Prayer in Matthew, it says, deliver from the evil one, or protect us. I can't recall the exact wording. It's protect us from the evil one.
Huh.
And I really personally, I like that way of looking at.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a kind of a big deal. So
yeah, I mean,
because the
That's
context
very different.
contained. Yes.
yeah. I mean, everybody
Deliver us from evil, right?
everybody understands things in their own way. That's just one way. It helps me because that's in the Lord's Prayer. Deliver us from the evil one, or protect us from the evil one. You guys can look it up, wherever Jesus, his disciples said, teach us how to pray, and it's the evil one. So that's the one I like. So, I mean, that's just my own preference.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so here we are. What does the Lord inform Daniel about his previous triumph in the spiritual warfare? See Daniel 11:1, printed below. In the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to confirm and strengthen him. Daniel 11:1. In Daniel 11:1, the Lord reveals how he previously secured victory in the days of Darius the Mede in order to fulfill the words spoken through Jeremiah 25:11-12. The Lord caused Babylonian Empire to fall and Darius the Mede to be established, thereby preparing the way for deliverance and restoration of his people Israel. Okay. I'm all with that. I agree. Because I can read Jeremiah 25:11-12 if you like. I marked it in there and I think I still got it marked.
Yeah, I would like that.
Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. I thought that was a handy one to, okay, Jeremiah
Yes.
25:11, is it 25:11-12? Yeah,
Yes.
25:11-12, okay. 25. Okay. This whole land shall become a ruin and a waste, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. Then after 70 years are completed, I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation and the land of the Chaldeans for their iniquity, says the Lord, making the land an everlasting waste. That was the prophecy, or that
Mhm.
this is what he's going to do. That was a 70 years.
Can you look up while you're in Jeremiah 29, 10-14?
Sure.
Because there was something in that too that referenced Daniel as well.
Not a problem.
You were
Okay, 29, what was the ones?
10-14.
10-14. Oh, okay, I got it right here. Okay. For thus says the Lord, only when Babylon's 70 years are completed, I will visit you and I will fulfill to you my promise and bring you back to this place. For surely I know that the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Then when you call upon me and come to pray to me, I will hear you. When you search for me, you will find me. If you seek me with your heart, I will let you find me, says the Lord, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord, and I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you into exile.
Yeah, it plays beautifully into
Yeah, it's
Daniel.
very beautifully stated. And let me see
Yeah.
what my commentary has this thing to say for that. 29. Okay. No, it doesn't have anything profound to say about that.
Okay.
Oh, it says this later interpretive comment encouraged Judean exiles to see themselves as heirs of heirs of God's gracious promises. So, yes, I mean that spells it out in a little more detail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, that it is very good. It's very. I like that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this chapter particular, again, it just sets us up for what's happening in 11.
Sure.
So, and him having, and Daniel having these visions and then just sort of being in, his fasting or his denying himself of real sustenance for these 3 weeks and just really focusing on what is it that God is trying to tell me. And there was something that I learned in the commentaries as well was, when we pray to Jesus, he's listening. When we're praying to God, he's listening. And, all the time, like we have his attention and he does answer those prayers, maybe not the way we necessarily want them, but there's a reason how he's answering them. So if that makes sense. So
Sure. It does make sense.
One of my commentaries made a very big deal about the praying and the
Yes.
persistence that Daniel gave, 21 days. And maybe if he had stopped praying at 20 days, maybe nothing would have really come together.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, it was
yeah. And
interesting.
again, it's so interesting because it's also 7 times 3.
That's,
You know,
oh,
Exactly.
yes,
7 days in a week. It's like
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
all seven. Seven's a big,
Yeah.
really big number to
Yeah.
God. God's got a
Yeah.
big thing for seven. So I don't
Yeah.
know what that's about.
Well, we
Yeah.
all know the prophecy of the 70 times 7.
Yes.
That's our
there it
favorite.
is.
Yeah, yeah, that was last week. Yeah, that's 70
Right.
times.
That was an exciting one.
Yes.
That was an exciting one.
Yes. Yes.
But I think again,
So
that's right though, because Daniel was putting himself in a position to be receptive for
mhm,
this vision.
mhm, mhm.
And that's what my commentary said too, that we're oftentimes we don't hear God because we are not, they didn't say listening, but we're not really there for him. We're not, you
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
way Daniel was.
Yeah. Exactly. I do believe that for sure.
Mhm.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's purpose to, I mean, that's what I love about the Episcopal Church too, is that, you know, we have these pews, you know, we come in, and I know when I was growing up, the church was usually very quiet. Our church is more chatty, you know, but when I was growing up, you come into church, you're waiting for the service to start, you get on your hands and knees and you pray, you know, before you start the service, you know, and I like to pray after the service as well. So that was kind of my thing. Whereas, you know, we're more in fellowship and talking. And so that's always kind of been an interesting thing. But I think about that, how the Episcopal Church has been designed to, again, to model, you know, what Daniel did, you know, praying, being,
Mhm.
I'm here for God, I'm here for worship, I'm here for, you know, whereas other churches do it a little bit differently. So at least that's what I
But it's
think.
not to say that St. John's didn't have that philosophy before. You know, there were clergy there that didn't encourage a lot of chatting and,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
you know, before the service.
Well, now, yeah, I mean, there's like 30 of us that come religiously. So I want to hold on to that. And when they're like, hey, did you bring your crosses? Like, oh, I forgot, you know,
I know.
like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I can,
I mean, it's neither here nor there. You know, it's neither. here.
exactly. But it's something that growing up, it just still stays with me. And I'm like,
Oh yeah. No. Oh, I grew up in a church like that. I know exactly.
yeah, and I'm not judging, but my mom would talk about there's a high Episcopal, like there's a hierarchy even in the Episcopal Church. Like there's a high church.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, what?
yeah.
It's like, yeah. And then there's ones that are a little more, you know, like raising up, you know, laying up on of hands, or like raising your hands when you're singing. And my mom's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Mom, just, you know,
Like your mom. Gosh,
I know
Oh,
you do.
moms.
I know you do. And
she's a great lady.
she is. I appreciate that, you know, so hopefully she comes out here soon.
I hope so too. I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing her.
me too. Mhm. Yeah. So, okay. So how would we like to do number 5? Would you like to read it, Pam?
Sure. With
Okay.
regard to the spiritual warfare, what does the Lord reveal still lies ahead? See Daniel 10:20. Then he said, do you know why I have come to you? Immediately I must return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I emerge from that conflict, the prince of Greece will come. That's going to be Alexander the Great, yeah?
Right.
As verse 20b indicates, the Lord will continue to engage in spiritual warfare against the devil, as the latter will continue to assault the purposes of Christ by employing the powers and the nations of this world. Note that Ezra 4:6-23 indicates that there would be further attempts to halt the work of God in the days of future Persian kings. As revealed in Daniel 8, it was during the period of the Greek Empire, especially in its divided form following the death of Alexander the Great, that the people of God suffered such severe persecution at the hands of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Nice.
This spiritual conflict between Christ and the devil would reach its height in the days of our Lord's earthly ministry, with Christ gaining the ultimate victory at the cross of Calvary. Note Colossians 2:15.
Yeah, you know, I wish that he would do more verse by verse, you know, that so
Sure.
that because there's a lot that he missed,
Yeah.
you know, in this, because
Mhm.
there was so much that was said in this. And
Yeah.
yeah, and he just jumps all over the place. So I guess he's like,
Bounces around pretty well, I think, for his own
yeah,
purpose. sometimes, you know.
Mhm.
I think this is one he needed to finish up on Friday afternoon. And he said, let's get this over with here, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
All these prophecies and stuff like that. Yeah, they'll figure something out. Yeah. No,
yeah. And I mean, I know that we have time if did we want to read part of that? Like I mean, there's not that many verses, but
no, we can read it. I'm all for that. You know, that might lend a little more meaning to that, because we certainly have the time, and it's like just a page and a half.
yeah, let's do that. I don't have,
Just tell me what you want me to read and I'll do it.
yeah, well, we started, because I think he redid like 10:1, but I guess we could just read it, since you said it's just a page and a half.
Sure. You want me to start in? How far you want me to read?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for Pam. You have yours,
Oh,
Pam?
go, yeah, you just read. I'll listen.
Hold on, let me. Okay, here it is. I just wanted to pull that up. So, okay, here
I
it is.
think
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
I really think it's beautiful. I really like it.
Yeah, me too. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
In the 3rd year of King Cyrus of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, who was named Belteshazzar. The word was true, and it concerned a great conflict. He understood the word, having received understanding in the vision. At that time, I, Daniel, had been mourning for 3 weeks. I had eaten no rich food, and no meat or wine had entered my mouth. And I had not anointed myself at all for the full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is the Tigris, I looked up and saw a man clothed in linen, with a belt of gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the roar of multitude. I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. The people who were with me did not see the vision. Though a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone to see this great vision. My strength left me, and my complexion grew deathly pale, and I retained no strength. Then I heard the sound of his words. When I heard the sound of his words, I fell into a trance, face to the ground. But then a hand touched me and roused me to my hands and knees. He said to me, Daniel, greatly beloved, pay attention to the words that I'm going to speak to you. Stand on your feet, for I have now been sent to you. So while he was speaking the word to me, I stood up trembling. He said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me for 21 days. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. And I left him there with the prince of the king of Persia. And I've come to help you understand what is to happen to your people at the end of days. For there is a further vision for those days.
Okay, so stop right there.
Sure.
So that part, what I learned about that was that was God talking to Daniel.
Sure.
And
Don't you think it had to be?
It had to be. It
Yeah.
had to be.
Yeah.
And it made sense because
Sure.
the other two
Gotcha.
were afraid. And you know how when Moses went up to the mountain and he saw the burning bush, it was a holy place, it was sacred, and he couldn't look. So I felt the same way, like they can't look. And so he's okay, what's happening? He's weak, but he face plants on the ground for whatever those reasons are. Daniel does. Obviously, here's this older man, but here's God who says, no, look at me. You've been faithful to me. I'm here because you've been faithful to me, and I am here because you to honor that. You've honored me. So, and he's always honored him.
Sure.
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I like that he understands that the devil or the evil one has his minions as well. So what does he do? He gets Michael and comes down to help fight the battle,
Sure.
on behalf of God. So that I really like that. So I'm glad I named my son Michael more than ever.
I was thinking that too, Joanna.
Great
Good
name.
job.
Yeah.
And he's a fighter. I mean, it's a family name. So that's it. And so Michael, when he has kids, he's going to name him Sean, Michael, and Jenny. Like he's already, it's all going to be, and yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, so I really like that. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
And in verse 12, then he said to me, do not be afraid, Daniel, since the first day you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God. Your words were heard and I have come in response to your words. I mean, wow. So if he did that for Daniel, he must do that for us too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my Chiefs did win and I was praying the whole time. I was like, Lord, please let the Chiefs play their best game in the Super Bowl. And they won by 3 points. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you so much. I mean, I know there are people praying for the other side, but whatever. So we won, we prevailed. That's all that matters.
You're not supposed to pray to the football gods.
I prayed to the Holy One. I was like, God, please. I said, let them play their best game. That's what I said. Let them play their best game. And it worked out. So yeah, I tried not to.
Okay.
I tried not to be doing anything. Okay, go ahead.
This time. Okay, you want me to keep reading?
Yes, of course.
While he was speaking these words to me, I turned my face toward the ground and was speechless. Then one in human form touched my lips, and I opened my mouth to speak and said to the one who stood before me, my Lord, because of the vision, such pains have come upon me that I retain no strength. How can my Lord's servant talk with my Lord? For I am shaking. No strength remains in me and no breath was left in me. Again, one in human form touched me and strengthened me. He said, do not fear, greatly beloved. You are safe. Be strong and courageous. He spoke to me. I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, do you know why I have come to you? I must return to the fight against the prince of Persia. And when I am through with him, the prince of Greece will come. But I am to tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is no one with me who contends against the princes except Michael, your prince. As for me, in the first year of Darius' Mede, I stood up to support and strengthen him. Okay, now I'm a little confused here.
Okay.
Because if we go back to one in human form, that is like Son of Man, somebody in human form. That's the Son of Man. I remember going to Daniel 7. I think that was when we were talking about we were studying Matthew, or I can't recall. But the thing is, Jesus is always talking about the Son of Man will be this. Son of Man, okay. The resurrection is the Son of Man, and that's a human. So again, one in human form touched me and strengthened me. Do not fear. So how?
I read somewhere that was Gabriel. Could it have been one of his angels that was in?
It wasn't Gabriel. It wasn't Gabriel speaking.
It wasn't. Okay.
No, according to the way I read it.
Okay.
And then it says, okay, so he said, do not fear, greatly beloved, you are safe. Be strong and courageous. When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Now, when he said, let my Lord speak, it might have been the one he was with, speak to me, my Lord. Then not the Lord with a capital L. Then he said, do you know why I have come to you? Now I must return to fight against the prince of Persia. When I'm through with him, the prince of Greece will come, and I am to tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is no one with me who contends against the princes except Michael, your prince. As for me, okay. So, I'm a little bit confused because if it was a human one, how could it be God? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but the thing is, that's not necessarily a bad thing because, Daniel, I can't remember what that thing is, but it is, when you're talking about the Son of Man, Jesus referred to him as Son of Man, himself as Son of Man. I don't know if they were talking about Jesus here. I don't think that necessarily be the case. Oh, wait a minute. Where is that? Let me just look real quick. Oh man. How about where what was that one? And Down talked about the ancient one.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that one? What chapter was that in?
Oh man.
In one of I've got some notes here. One of my commentaries, Dale, it said that the man clothed in linen, the
Yeah.
tweet you just read about,
Yeah.
was Jesus,
Oh,
or an unnamed angel.
okay.
Yeah, and that's where I get Gabriel. So I have that too.
Okay. Jesus or an unnamed angel. So the things that's where that's
How could it be Jesus? See, this is where I'm stupid. How could
Right. No, it's not stupid.
let me
It's
read this. This is Daniel 7. Okay. And it says, I saw one like a human being coming from the clouds of heaven, and he came to the Ancient One and was presented before him. To him was given dominion, glory, and kingship, that all the peoples and nations and languages should serve him. His dominion is everlasting dominion. He shall not pass away, and this kingship is one and shall never be destroyed. Okay, so here we are. Are we talking about another, Pam, you brought it up. Was it another angel or is it Jesus? I don't know. I don't know. I think, it might be considered some prophecy that, that it was Jesus, that people looked on it at a later date and said, oh yeah, that was Jesus, I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I kept getting that it could have been Gabriel.
Yeah.
But it is, it's tough.
Yeah, but when I say I saw one like a human being coming from clouds of heaven, and he came to the Ancient One. Okay, so it's a little bit of a mystery there.
Well, it's all a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, it is all a mystery. Pam, read me again what your commentary said. Read again what your commentary said.
It said that it says a certain man clothed in linen. This is my notes. Certain man equals Jesus or an unnamed angel.
Okay. All right. Good. I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
But it does. I mean, I hear about Jesus too, because even Jesus says to you, don't be afraid, you are treasured.
Yeah.
Peace I bring to you, be very strong. He longs to strengthen you with his love. So if you're in the same emotional state as Daniel was, then sit and bask in the presence of Jesus today and let him strengthen you as he did Daniel.
So, but this was written before the time. It's written before the time of Jesus. So the thing is that what you'd have to say, okay, if I was a Jew looking for a prophecy of the coming of Jesus, I might take that as being Jesus talking to him. I don't know. My commentary doesn't necessarily say anything about it.
It kept going back to Gabriel. Everything kept going back to Gabriel.
Okay.
And okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was touched.
But I mean,
it was divine.
It's very nicely set things up for going into 11 and 12.
Yes.
That was what my commentary said. This sets the whole stage for going into the whole prophecy. But bring your lunch next week because it's gonna
Yeah, because we're finishing up 11 and 12, and I think he only does 11 though, right?
No, does
How
he
much
do
is
11 and 12?
Does he do 11 and 12 next week?
No, I think you're right. I think the thing is he's got it broken down. There's
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, so I've got exploring. Okay, so I've got to do expo. Where is it at? Okay, so I have to give her both.
yeah.
So yeah, he does 11:2 to 35, and then we've got the other part 11:36 through 12:13. So yeah, it's going to be, so we'll pack our lunch just before we get our ashes. Do we know when the services are on Wednesday?
I heard
There's
it.
only one service.
Oh,
I just learned that today at the Altar Guild meeting.
oh,
There's
What-
only
what-
going to be a noon service.
is that right? Oh, me.
Mhm,
That's too bad.
mhm.
That's really too bad.
Mhm.
Wow.
I just heard that today because I had the agenda written out with who's going to work the noon service and who's going to work the 6 o'clock service. Well, there's not going to be a 6 o'clock service
Wow.
because it was so poorly attended last year.
Okay, so I have to move some patients around because I have to get my ashes. So
Sure.
I have to get my ashes. Well, I'm glad I know because I was
Sure,
thinking it
yeah.
was going to be 6.
Well, I was kind of surprised because Father Leland said this was decided on Thursday, but Sunday when he was talking, I understood it to be 2 services and it was a holy day of obligation. So you better get to one or the other. I mean, I was really surprised today to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did a vote. You know, like,
Yeah.
hey, who, or a show of hands, like who wants
Yeah,
this? And
yeah.
a lot of us raised 6, and
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
guess the powers that be spoken. So okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this sets the stage, and again, even in the commentaries or even in the stuff I watched, they said because this was only like 30 or 40 minutes long, but the 11 and the 12 was a lot longer. So obviously there's a lot more
Sure.
context in there. So I will send Kim the 2 passages that we have, and yeah. So thanks for coming again. It's a page turner, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it's far more interesting
Page
and
turner.
a lot more to Daniel than meets the eye.
I know. I'm so glad we did this, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're doing next. And I know guess we'll talk about that next week. As far as we're not doing any Bible study, obviously during
Lent.
Lent, but then we go right back into it again. And I'd really love your input as to which book you guys want to study next. So
Let me since I'm probably going to be the one that's got to do it next time. Okay, so I'm up to the plate here. Okay, so what I'm thinking about doing, and I would like your input on this. I'm thinking about convening a little meeting among us and then people that have formerly attended
yes.
study and say, okay, which direction you want to go here?
New Testament, Old Testament. Is that where you're going to? Is that what you mean?
And just say, because, people, I think, even if they never attend again, at least we can say, okay, we brought you all together here, everybody had a chance to reflect on what they might be interested in and so forth, and go from there. I mean, I would like to stay with Ritson because it does keep things somewhat organized.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
But I'm
Absolutely.
leaning towards something New Testament, one of Paul's letters. He's got Colossians in there, he's got Galatians, there's several of them that he's got there. And I think those would be ones because you can learn so much about the early church from Paul.
Yes, and I really I've been too afraid to even touch on Revelation. I've never done.
Oh, we're not even going to go there. No.
Okay. So I thought, well, now that we've got Daniel,
Yeah, that's right.
He set it up. So
Let's quit while we're ahead.
and I do like those small books that have kind of gotten not forgotten, but just really not focused that much.
No.
Kind of lost their focus. And this is one of them. Like
a great book.
We just kind of move along past Daniel.
Sure.
And wow, it's so much.
Yeah.
I just love that we learned about such a great man. I mean, he's, like Paul in his day, kind of a thing, didn't write the books, but definitely a very strong figure in the Bible. So,
Sure.
So, okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks you guys.
All right, no,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
This
Joanna.
has been
Another-
wonderful.
another
Happy
great session.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you guys. Okay.
Good
All right.
Okay,
night.
I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
wonderful.
Bye.